I'm Jeremy. Today's day 370 of reading. Reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Let's get started. We are currently on page 134. Let's go. A stooped, timid-looking old wizard with fluffy white hair had just entered the room, panting. "Oh, Arthur," he said desperately, without looking at Harry. "Thank goodness! I didn't know what to do for the best, whether to wait here for you or not. I've just sent an owl to your home, but you've obviously missed it. An urgent message came 10 minutes ago." I know about the regurgitating toilet," said Mr. Weasley. No, it's not about the toilet. It's about the Potter boys' hearing. They've changed the time and venue. It starts at 8 o'clock, and it's down in old courtroom 10. But they told me Merlin's beard. Mr. Weasley looked at his watch, let out a yelp, and leapt from his chair. "Quick, Harry, we should have been there 5 minutes ago." Perkins flattened himself against the filing cabinets as Mr. Weasley left the office at a run, Harry at his heels. Why have they changed the time?" Harry said breathlessly as they hurtled past our cubicles. People poked out their heads and stared as they streaked past. Harry felt as though he had left all his insides back at Perkins' desk. "I've no idea, but thank goodness we got here so early. If you'd missed it, it would have been catastrophic." Mr. Weasley skidded to a halt beside the lift and jabbed impatiently at the down button. "Come on!" The lift clattered into view, and they hurried inside. Every time it stopped, Mr. Weasley cursed furiously and pummeled the number 9. "Those courtrooms haven't been used in years," said Mr. Weasley angrily. "I can't think why they're doing it down there, but no." A plump witch carrying a smoking goblet entered the lift at the moment, and Mr. Weasley did not elaborate. "The atrium," said the cool female voice, and the golden grill slid open, showing Harry a distant glimpse of golden statues in the fountain. The plump witch got out, and a sallow-skinned wizard with a very mournful face got in. "Morning, Arthur," he said in a sepulchral voice as the lift began to descend. "Don't often see you down here." "Urgent business, Bode," said Mr. Weasley, who was bouncing on the balls of his feet and throwing anxious looks over at Harry. "Ah, yes," said Bode, surveying Harry unblinkingly. Of course. Harry had barely had emotion to spare for Bode, but his unfaltering gaze did not make him feel any more comfortable. "Department of Mysteries," said the cool female voice, and left it at that. "Quick, Harry," said Mr. Weasley as the lift doors rattled open, and they sped up a corridor that was quite different from those above. The walls were bare. There were no windows and no doors apart from the plain black one set at the very end of the corridor. Harry expected them to go through it, but instead, Mr. Weasley seized him by the arm and dragged him to the left, where there was an opening leading down to a flight of steps. Down here," panted Mr. Weasley, taking 2 steps at a time. "The lift doesn't even come down this far. Why they're doing it there?" They reached the bottom of the steps and ran along yet another corridor, which bore a great resemblance to that which led to Snape's dungeon at Hogwarts, with rough stone walls and torches and brackets. The doors they passed here were heavy wooden ones with iron bolts and keyholes. "Courtroom 10, I think we're nearly." "Yes." Mr. Weasley stumbled to a halt outside a grimy dark door with an immense iron lock and slumped against the wall, clutching at a stitch in his chest. "Go on," he panted, pointing his thumb at the door. "Get in there. Aren't you coming with?" No, I'm not allowed. Good luck." Harry's heart was beating a violent tattoo against his Adam's apple. He swallowed hard, turned the heavy iron door handle, and stepped into the courtroom. Chapter 8. The Hearing. Harry gasped. He could not help himself. The large dungeon he had entered was horribly familiar. He had not only seen it before, he had been here before. This was the place he had visited inside Dumbledore's pensieve, the place where he had watched the Lestranges sentenced to life imprisonment in Azkaban. The walls were made of dark stone, dimly lit by torches. Empty benches rose on either side of him, but ahead, in the highest benches of all, were many shadowy figures. They had been talking in low voices, but as the heavy door swung closed behind Harry, an ominous silence fell. A cold male voice rang out across the courtroom. "You're late." "Sorry," said Harry nervously. I didn't know the time had changed." "That's not the Wizengamot's fault," said the voice. "An owl was sent to you this morning. Take your seat." Harry dropped his gaze to the chair in the center of the room, the arms of which were covered in chains. He had seen those chains spring to life and bind whoever sat between them. His footsteps echoed loudly as he walked across the stone floor. When he sat gingerly on the edge of the chair, the chains clinked rather threateningly, but did not bind him. Feeling rather sick, he looked up at the people seated at the bench above. There were about 50 of them, all, as far as he could see, wearing plum-colored robes with an elaborately worked silver W on the left-hand side of the chest, and all staring down their noses at him, some with very austere expressions, other looks of frank curiosity. In the middle of the front row sat Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic. Fudge was a portly man who often sported a lime-green bowler hat, though today he had dispensed with it. He had dispensed, too, with the indulgent smile he had once worn when he spoke to Harry. A broad, square-jawed witch with very short gray hair sat on Fudge's left. She wore a monocle and looked forbidding. On Fudge's right was another witch, but she was sitting so far back on the bench that her face was in the shadow. "Very well," said Fudge, the accused being present. "Finally, let us begin. Are you ready?" he called down the row. "Yes, sir," said an eager voice Harry knew. Ron's brother Percy was sitting at the very end of the front bench. Harry looked at Percy, expecting some sign of recognition from him, but none came. Percy's eyes, behind his horn-rimmed glasses, were fixed on his parchment, a quill poised in his hand. "The disciplinary hearing of 12th of August," said Fudge in a ringing voice, and Percy began to take notes at once. "Until offences committed under the decree for reasonable restriction of underage sorcery and international Statute of Secrecy by Harry James Potter, resident at number 4 Privet Drive, Little Winging, Surrey. Interrogators: Cornelius Oswald Fudge, Minister of Magic; Amelia and Susan Bones, Head of Department of Magical Law Enforcement; Dolores Jane Unbridge, Senior Undersecretary to the Minister; Court Scribe Percy Ignatius Weasley, Witness for Defense; Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore," said a quiet voice from behind Harry, who turned his head so fast he cricked his neck. Dumbledore was striding serenely across the room, wearing long midnight blue robes and a perfectly calm expression. His long silver beard and his hair gleamed in the torchlight as he drew level with Harry and looked up at Fudge through the half-moon spectacles that rested halfway down his very crooked nose. The members of the Wizengamot were muttering. All eyes were now on Dumbledore. Some looked annoyed, others looked slightly frightened. 2 elderly witches in the back row, however, raised their hands and waved them welcome. A powerful emotion had risen inside Harry's chest at the sight of Dumbledore, a fortified, hopeful feeling rather like that of which the Phoenix song gave him. He wanted to catch Dumbledore's eye, but Dumbledore was not looking his way. He was continuing to look up at the obviously flustered Fudge. "Ah," said Fudge, who looked thoroughly disconcerted. "Dumbledore, yes, you, got our, message that the time and, place of the hearing had been changed then?" "I must have missed it," said Dumbledore cheerfully. "However, due to a lucky mistake, I arrived at the Ministry 3 hours early, so no harm done. Yes, well, I suppose we'll need another chair. Weasley, could you?" "Not to worry, not to worry," said Dumbledore pleasantly. He took out his wand, gave it a little flick, and a squashy chintz armchair appeared out of nowhere next to Harry. Dumbledore sat down, put the tips of his long fingers together, and surveyed Fudge over them with an expression of polite interest. The Wizengamot was still muttering. "Thank everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to read page 140. Bookmark, close. Peace out.